on our way to the ghost town. It's Yeehaw Junction. Okay, and we're at the crossroads here, and there's Desert Inn, Motel, Good Food, and Bar. Yep, I did another show about this one. If you want to look it up, it's called Midnight at the Yeehaw Junction. All right, look it up. It's got a lot of interesting stuff about this area. Again, and I'm here at this place called Kenansville, and I'm going through some historical parts, but as you can tell, some of these historical areas are really inaccessible. This little park, believe it or not, a little bit further south from here was the site of something called Whittier. Okay, now this looks like a for sale sign. I don't know if it's for this little RV park or something. Some of them look like they haven't been lived in. You can tell though some of these trees are really, really old. But anyway, just to get a perspective on this, this was the site of a place called, or a little town called Whittier. Okay, and basically the story involves one of the first settlers in Lakeview called Hamp Jenigan. And now Lakeview at that time was part of Brevard County, and he came into this area around 1878. Okay, and later on Lakeview was changed to that name of Whittier. Now by the end of the year, this community had only 3 families. Now remember, back then, that's all you needed to make a community. Now at Courthouse Low, later known as Courthouse Pond, which was located near the stand of trees, it was a log house built of pine logs. Now in 1876, the presidential election was, was contested between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel Tilden. And believe it or not, here we go with Florida again, deciding to vote. The election was decided on the votes from Florida, and that the count from the Courthouse Pond was reported late. There were accusations of ballot box stuffing. See, us Floridians, we've been meddling in presidential elections since the 1870s. Okay, anyway, as of November 7th, 1876, Tilden had a clear popular majority, but the totals in the Electoral College were in doubt. Okay, so on March 2nd, the Electoral Commission ruled that Florida had gone for Hayes. Have you heard some version of this before? Okay, anyway, let's fast forward. Now, remember, this is in the middle of, this was after the Civil War. Now, the residents of Whittier, which doesn't sound like there were that many, they received their supplies from Sanford by ox team to Kissimmee. And then they were transferred to a river steamer which took them up to Turkey Hammock, and from there they came overland the last 12 miles. And of course these farmers participated in these cattle drives to Tampa in the early 1900s so that the beef could be shipped to Cuba, all of which took 5 days. All right, which is really interesting because you look at this place now, you wouldn't guess the historical significance. This is the street that runs out right in front of it, which is South Canoe Creek. Okay, now a little bit far from here is another place called the site of Parker Place. Now, this was the home of Reading Parker and his wife Ellen Willingham, and he died in 1891, leaving her a widow. Okay, and she moved to Passengers, and rumors were circulated about gold that was supposedly buried on the property. You know what that means. Now, gold hunters who came to dig reported seeing spooks, apparitions, wraiths, and other types of unexplained phenomena. Grown men were wary of being caught in the area after dark. It's really funny because me and my videographer Henry, when we drove in here, he was like, I wouldn't want to be here after dark. And that's before we became aware of any of this. So apparently this area has the reputation of being haunted for quite a while. So not even the gold thing would make him come after dark. Some said Parker rode the range as a headless horseman to frighten off gold seekers. Some cattlemen reported the rattling of chains and weird moans and groans when they tried to spend the night in the old house. It later burnt down. Okay, folks, so see what happens. Some of these trailers, they've been left out here, you could tell. There's not much left of them, but like I said, you could tell some of these trees, especially this one in the middle, is pretty old. This oak tree is pretty old. Okay, so I'm gonna go off now and look at another part of Kenansville, because this little town has been on the map here and been in the central of all the history of Central Florida, all the cattle drives, you name it. And of course, in gold and ghosts. You can't ask for a better mix than that. Hey folks, this is Marlene again, and this is to continue our little tour of Kenansville, which is super interesting. Anyway, this area that you see all around you, okay, this is a very interesting little history, okay. This area used to belong to a gentleman by the name of Lawrence Silas, okay. Now, he was born in 1887 or 1891, and on the shore of Lake Marion, okay, that way back there, that's Lake Marion. Okay, now his father, Tom, was a slave who moved from Georgia and settled near the lake with 12 other families. Okay, now through hard work, he built up a herd of 2,000 cattle. That's a lot of cattle, and owned several thousand acres of land. He hired a tutor for his children and encouraged them to be independent, and they were the only black family in the area. Okay, he was a cattleman. Lawrence was a cattleman for 70 years and was very well known in Osceola County. So all this thing that I'm panning around and you're looking at, this used to be all of his property where, you know, he lived along with the 12 families, plus this is where he grazed his 2,000 head of cattle. Now he was, like I said, he was well known in Osceola County, and his homestead was located north of here, near 10 Mile Road. Okay. Okay, now the novelist anthropologist Zora Neale Hurston wrote a 2-page article about him entitled Lawrence of the Valley, which appeared in the September 5th, 1942 issue of the Saturday Evening Post. Now, after his death, his herds were dispersed because unfortunately he had no son to carry on the business. Now, the name of this road dates back to the early days when the marina at the end of it was known as Bert Arnold's Landing. That little marina way back there. Yep. In the 1960s, the marina was doing a flourishing business then owned by Frank Lester Platt. Okay, now, close by here, there was another family by the name of the Bass family, they were prominent in Whittier. Remember, I just was talking about the Whittier settlement? Now, Arch Bass had sons Oliver, Gus, Grant, Quinn, Oscar, Lee, and Nat, and daughters Rosie Tyndall, Alice Montedecoa, and Iva Ashton. Okay, now his daughter Marie Dollar taught at the school in the 1950s. Okay, now as you could tell, again, it's incredible what the history of this place really is. And as you could tell, they have like little different inlets around here that all lead into Lake Marion, which was part of like everything, bodies of water. That's where everybody tends to gather around as far as building your house, and then from here everybody just bought up the land because of course back then it was very cheap, and one of the main economies of Central Florida, which was cattle ranching, folks. Florida is a big cattle state. So next stop, the cemetery. See you guys there. It's Marlene again. Here we are in the intersection. We're still in Kenansville, by the way. Harvey Road and Canoe. Okay, now, believe it or not, the name of this intersection before was Tollbreaker Avenue. Okay, and the story behind this road, which I think is so interesting, is in the 1920s, Harvey Road had a different nickname than Harvey Road. Okay, on this road was a local shipping point of the Geiger Brothers wholesale fish dealers. Yes, fish dealers. J.E. Ingram, president of the Model Land Company, announced that the railroad's purposes were to develop farmlands, haul timber and turpentine, aid the cattle industry, and most importantly of all, provide rapid transportation for the catfish industry of Lake Marion, because that's the kind of fish that was out here. Believe it or not, that's a really big industry, the catfish industry. The road is named after the Harvey family, which included Mrs. Jack Harvey, the mother of 10 sons and 5 daughters. That's 15, folks. Okay, no TV back then. All right. She used Grandma Tumblin, a midwife, rather than a doctor or a hospital for each of the births. Wow. I don't know when the time period was that she was having to, but good for her. Okay. Let's go a little bit further, because these people, this is so interesting. I think, I don't know, I love it. I don't know about you guys, and I was just at the cemetery, and a lot of these people are buried there in that Kenansville cemetery, and also their families, their descendants.